guys, it's Glenn from glenscarcollection.com, and here I am sitting in traffic coming home from work. Just going to give you my initial impressions on my latest car, the 2013 Audi S8. Remember, if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and share it with your friends so our channel can grow. If you care about real estate, I have a new real estate channel, YouTube channel called Glenn Real Estate Expert, and you'll learn everything about real estate, especially if you're a tenant or want to own a building one day. Check out that channel. Okay, so this is just a quick review of the Audi S8, and it's basically my initial impressions. I've had the car for about 5 days. I've put about 400 miles on it, and these are my initial impressions, and we'll do long-term reviews on this like I do on my other cars, and we'll see what the pros and the cons are. So, first impression of driving this car is it is fast. It is a rocket. Audi claims 0 to 60 of 3.9 seconds. We're next to a dump truck, so that's the noise you hear. Audi claims 0 to 60, 3.9 seconds. Actual, according to Motor Trend and Car and Driver, is 3.5 seconds. So this is probably, I think, the fastest car I've ever owned. And it is a rocket. When you hit the gas on this car, I can't believe how fast it is. And the initial impression is not even from 0 to 60, it's like 60 to 100. This car could, I think, beat anything on the road in a straight line because it has all-wheel drive and it hooks up. So I like New Jersey's full of tolls, the turnpike on the parkway, and I like going out of a toll booth with somebody who's in a, a Z06 or a 911 or, whatever, Viper, and I just hit the gas and I beat them every time. Why? Because of my all-wheel drive. It'll beat an M5, it'll beat a Panamera, maybe not a Panamera Turbo with all-wheel drive, but pretty much anything on the road. So the initial impressions, and I test drove one before, so I've driven them before, is it's fast. It's even faster than I remember. I wanted, in my car, basically there's different ways you can equip these cars, so I have 3 main options on this car. One is the Bang & Olufsen stereo that gives you 1400 watts stereo instead of the standard Bose stereo. You have 19 speakers, and that it was a $6,500 option. Distronic cruise control, I forget how much that was. It was either like maybe $2,000, and that has a stop and go function, so I could set the cruise control at 70 miles an hour, for example. If I run into bumper-to-bumper traffic, it'll slow me down, stop, and then it'll get me moving again while the traffic goes. Now, I've probably used regular cruise control like 10 times in my whole life because I like to be in total control. With this new commute, there's a lot of bumper-to-bumper traffic. Once in a while, the road will open up, then be bumper-to-bumper again. So I just started using the Distronic, and you know what? I should be using it right now, actually. So I'm still getting used to it. It does the inputs very slow. So it'll stop you sometime gradually, and say you were set at 70, the cars in front of you went down to 40. It'll slow you down, but when the traffic clears, going back to 70 is slower. A lot of times I don't like that, and again, this is my initial impression, and maybe I just don't know what I'm doing. My initial impression would be it takes too long to get back up to speed, where I have a lot of horsepower here. I could just floor it. So I'm still kind of getting used to that. And then the third main option that it has is a cold weather package, which gives you a heated steering wheel and heated rear seats. So standard options, to name a few, are heated and cool seats for the front passengers. Probably my favorite option, besides the stereo, which sounds amazing, it's probably the best OEM stereo I've ever heard, is the massage seats. So you and your passenger have massage seats. You have 5 different massages, 5 different intensities, and I'm using it right now. Played hockey the other night, took this car, and when I was done, the massage going to hockey practice and coming back was great. So I use them every time I drive in this car. Now, gas mileage, I believe, is around, claimed according to the EPA sticker, about 15 in the city and 26 on the highway. The way it achieves it on the highway is by cylinder deactivation. It'll drive in 4-cylinder mode at a constant speed, or even cruise control on the highway, and so you don't hear those ugly 4-cylinder sounds. It actually will pump in white noise through these speakers, so it still seems like a V8 to me. So I took it on a highway trip today to meet a client, about an hour on the highway, and I averaged about 22 miles to the gallon, and I was flooring it every chance I got. So I did a couple, way above the speed limit runs where I just hit the gas to pass some people on the open road, and I still got 22 miles per gallon on the highway. So that's great. Around town, if I take it to do errands, it gets about 11 or 12 miles to the gallon, if you run to the store and get milk or something like that. So my initial impressions is very fast. I saw other reviews of the Audi S8 2013, and people say it's nimble. It is not nimble at all. It's fine on sweepers. You go in a little slower and power out of the corner. If you have to make a sharp, 90-degree angle turn, you have to turn left or right, then it feels like the engine's all the way out front of the car and it plows into the turn. Well, guess what? The engine is over the front axle, and that's why it plows into the turn. So you kind of have to drive this car like a air-cooled 911 rear-engine car. You go kind of slow in and fast out. And with the sport differential, which is standard, it really will power you out of a corner. So coming out of a turn, nobody's going to beat me coming out of a turn because I can get on the power easily. The sport differential will sort it out, and I will rock it out of that turn. So you just have to go into it slower, but a lot slower than I'm used to. Here's almost an accident. Coming back from my appointment, I saw a tractor trailer switch lanes at the last second and hit into the guardrail. So it shows you how bad the driving is. So my initial impressions, very fast. Handling is not very good, but it's a highway car. I have other cars that are great in handling, so this car really will only see the highway. It's really fast at any speed. Gas mileage is good. Right now, today I did half city and half highway, and I'm averaging 19, which is fine. One of the reasons I chose this car is because I really needed better gas mileage. The F10 M5 was a very close call, and I almost picked that car. I spoke to a couple owners that averaged about 16 miles per gallon. My Mercedes averaged 23 miles per gallon, my GLA 45 AMG. So averaging 19 or 20 would be phenomenal in a car like this, where averaging 16 probably not as good. And the reason I chose this car over the M5 is I was really choosing the M5 for me, and that's what I typically do. I say, oh, I'm going to get this really good daily driver, and then I go, oh, wow, for that price I can get a BMW 1M, or for that price I can get an NSX, and always buy that car, and then maybe have a cheaper daily driver. But this car has to make me money. I have to have clients in the car. It's probably better that it's a sleeper, like this in this color silver. I believe it's called Ice Silver. Everybody I've shown it to so far just thinks it's a nice Audi A8. They don't understand what an S8 is. They don't make many S8s. I had to literally search the country. I found this car in Miami, Florida, though I believe it was originally sold in New York, believe it or not. Bang & Olufsen option for $6,500 was a little hard to find. I only wanted that because they were all the same money. It really makes no money. Options really don't have any resale value. So a car with Bose and a car with Bang & Olufsen is essentially the same on a used car market. So because I'm going to be sitting in traffic 90% of the time, I wanted to have the exact opposite in this car. So instead of having a manual stick shift rear drive that I'm going to take up for mountain drives or in the back roads, this car is going to be either sitting in traffic or just on the open highway. So I wanted the exact opposite. So I wanted a great stereo. Now I don't have room here, but I could have blown this guy right out of the toll. So far my impressions are pretty good. There's a couple things, and I was a previous owner of an Audi years ago. I had a 2005 Audi S4 6-speed manual V8 in Nogaro Blue, and that was a great car. It wasn't the corner carver that my E46 or E90 M3s were, just like this is not a corner carver compared to an M5. And this really doesn't compete against an M5. So obviously this competes with the BMW 7 Series. The S8 really competes with the Alpina B7. The Porsche Panamera is really a sports car. I test drove the Panamera and I loved it. I wanted the GTS model, which I drove. And the GTS model was slow compared to this car. Normally aspirated V8, though it had great sound. It didn't hold the candle to this car as far as acceleration went. It just felt like a wider car to me than this. It was the big wide car, and dual clutch transmission wasn't very good in traffic, and neither was the M5. This is a torque converter, ZF 8-speed automatic, and it works great in traffic. And again, you know, half my commuting, or 3/4 of my commute, is bumper-to-bumper traffic. So again, this is a work car, so I have to pick it as if it's a work car, not, let's see if we can pass these guys. Wow. I just barely touched the gas there, and we could basically pass whoever we want. Now, when you go a high speed with this car and you get back to speed limit, it seems very slow. What else can I tell you about the car? And these are my initial impressions. Steering feel, you have two choices, comfort and dynamic. Dynamic is very stiff, so it's not easy to park. I have to park in a tight parking garage, so I keep the steering wheel on comfort. Comfort's like too loose, like a Lexus, I call it. And the dynamic is probably a little too stiff, so neither steering feel is very good. But, you know, this is a luxury car first. It's really a fast luxury car, way more luxury than sports sedan. Brakes, I'll call it has luxury car brakes. You probably have to go down the pedal 50% to scrub off any speed. The braking distances are phenomenal. They're almost equal to a sports car. And but you do have to put the pedal quite a bit. You can't just scrub off speed like you can in a sports car by just brushing against the pedal. So you really got to go down about 50%, and then you'll start scrubbing off speed, go down all the way, and obviously you'll stop very fast. Now, this car new was $120,000. Some options I don't have that I didn't think were necessary. I'd take them if you gave it to me, but I wanted those three options: Bang & Olufsen, the park, the cruise control with the stop and go, the Distronic, or whatever they call it. That is, believe it or not, optional. It's not standard, though almost every car I think every car I looked like had it. Maybe about 20% of the cars had the Bang & Olufsen, so I was kind of limited trying to find that. And believe it or not, at least in my search, I didn't find many with the cold weather package, which is really a must here in the Northeast. So I want my clients to have the heated seat in the back, and of course, I'd like to have the heated steering wheel also. Now, it's funny that my M2 has a heated steering wheel, and I never really drive that in the winter, but anyway. So far, my initial impressions are good. It's a real big car. I got to get used to the size. It's actually longer than my Jeep Grand Cherokee, so it's kind of not that easy to park in a tight parking garage, which I have to do every day. So that I'm sure I'll get used to that. It's made my commute a lot more comfortable. So the expansion joints on the highway that I would try to avoid with the GLA 45, I barely feel anything with this car. It's such smooth. Now, I keep the suspension on comfort, and there's actually a way you can raise it. Like if you're going over a speed bump or something like that, you can electronically raise it or lower it. Also, there's about 6 cameras, and there's a top-down view camera, which is very cool. I'll do an in-depth video so you see all the options here. This video is just for my first impressions. But otherwise, it's a great car. I wouldn't call it a sports car. I think it's the best car in its class. I think it's better than the 7 Series. I didn't like the Mercedes S550 or S63 AMG. I thought the newer Mercedes have even a nicer interior than this. So I would say this is the second nicest interior. But, you know, most cars are 8/10 cars, right? You drive them hard at 8/10, they start to fall apart because they're not really track cars. I thought that I drove even the S65 AMG, and to me, that was a 4/10 car. That car is like you cruise around in it. As soon as you try to dive bomb into a turn, it was like the front end plowed. It was like sitting on your living room couch. So I was really disappointed, even though that car is a nicer interior and sounds nicer. Mercedes did great with job with the sound. So I think in this class of big, fast luxury sedans, I think this is the best one. Again, a Panamera is more of a sports car. I test drove that in an urban environment. I had rented one out in California, the hybrid version, which was the slowest. I drove a GTS here in an urban area, and as good as it was in California on the open highways going 100 miles an hour and going along the coast, it wasn't as good here in traffic. I think it was just too wide, and the dual clutch transmission wasn't very good in traffic, even though that's one of the best dual clutch transmissions in the business. So that's why I chose the Audi S8. So I'm happy with my choice. Again, I test drove another F10 M5, and I remember the salesman telling me, I actually test drove a 2014 M5 competition package again recently, like a week or two ago, before I completed the sale on this, just to make sure, you know, I was doing the right thing. And it was at an Audi dealership, and when we were driving it, even the Audi salesman said, it's kind of loud in here. And I'm like, really? It seems normal to me. And you know what? It would be loud. If I had to do a conference room call in the car, and also I guess just for security, because I go all over New Jersey. So I could go an hour or two in each direction. And, you know, when the winter comes or when we have bad thunderstorms and pouring rain, it's probably smarter, since this is a work car, to have the all-wheel drive traction than the rear drive of the M5. Now, I bought this car certified pre-owned. So even though it's a 2013, you only can get certified pre-owned from an Audi dealer. So I have a 12-month unlimited mile warranty. Now, to meet the CPO spec, the dealer did an oil change, put in a brand new battery. The tires are pretty new. Some of the tires are from 2016, 2 of them, and 2 are from 2017. So I have a while to go on tires, though I probably will drive this car at least 20,000 miles a year. So they'll probably, you know, I'm going to replace them certainly well before the 5 years. And they also put new front brakes and rotors. So in my experience shopping with this car and checking the brakes on every car that I looked at for S8s, typically people need front brakes and rotors at 30,000 miles because it's a heavy car. Especially if you have a heavy foot and you're hitting the gas and going 100 miles an hour, you're going to have to use a lot of brake to stop, which is going to obviously wear your brakes out sooner. So because it was, you know, close to the spec required for CPO, the dealer just replaced it. So I really should, besides just oil changes, so if I put a lot of miles on this car, I'll have to get oil changes sooner. But oil changes notwithstanding, there really shouldn't be much that I'll have to spend on this car because it has new brakes and newer tires. So hopefully it'll just be gas and oil changes. Now nobody's going to let me in. I hate when these people go slow in the lane here. If you're going to go, go, mister. I'm sure the driving skill is just as bad where you are. It's not just limited to New Jersey. So those are my initial impressions. Maybe in a month or so, I'll do a full review, which I'll show you all the options, and then I'll be driving it. Hopefully I have a couple thousand miles on this car, and I can give you a better impression. And we'll do long-term reviews. A lot of people are afraid to own an Audi or BMW out of warranty. While 12 months will be covered, we'll see if anything goes wrong. And these cars are easily tunable, so there are tunes that you can get. Horsepower, speaking of that, this engine is rated at 4-liter twin-turbo V8. It's the same engine found in the 8-cylinder Continental GT. It's rated at 520 horsepower, 481 foot-pounds of torque. Now, Motor Trend did a dyno of this car, and it actually dynoed at about crank horsepower at about 575, I think, and 506 foot-pounds of torque. So the car is underrated, just like every German car. And I said there are tunes available that put you at 650, 700 horsepower. I wouldn't do any of those tunes while I'm still under this 12-month warranty, but if this car turns out to be a reliable car, then that's something we could do for the channel. We'll tune it to 700 horsepower and see how it does then. But if you drive one of these cars, you're not going to look for more speed. You may look for better handling, but not more speed. Thanks again for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Leave a comment below what you think of my choice of the Audi S8. And remember to hit that subscribe button. I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And a lot of you are subscribers and sometimes tell me you haven't seen the latest video. Hit that notification bell and then you'll get an email every time I post a video. But otherwise, if you don't get that email, 7 a.m. Eastern time every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you get a video, so 3 times a week. Thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. Take care.